Thank you very much, Jane, for all you and the Hall of Fame staff have done for me over the last 7 months. Congratulations to the Fraley family and the class of 2024, whom I was so privileged to cover: Jim Leland, Joe Mauer, Todd Helton, and Adrian Beltre, who had a great season for the Red Sox in 2010. As I stand here, I think of St. Luke, chapter 1, verse 37. For with God, nothing shall be impossible. I never thought this award would be possible with so many worthy candidates, and I'm honored to have been selected by previous winners. I've had so many connections to Cooperstown. The late Bill Guilfoyle, Vice President of the Hall of Fame, who along with sports writer Bill Christine, introduced me to covering Major League Baseball when Mr. Guilfoyle was Media Relations Director of those great Pirate teams of Clemente and Stargell. My hometown friend, George Grand, who emceed many player inductions here. George presented me with a beautiful Hall of Fame jacket the very next day after my election. And his late brother, Carl Grand, a great broadcaster in New Haven, advised me and hired me as a public address announcer for the New Haven Wonderette softball team at the age of 19. And my dear friend, Jeff Idelson, our intern and broadcast statistician in the 80s, who went on to become president of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, making us so proud. Josh Rawitz, the current president, who along with Vice President John Shestakowski, called to inform me of this honor. I tried to put the call on speakerphone, but instead of hitting the white button, I hit the red button. Yes, I hung up on the Hall of Fame. It was a long 30 seconds till they called back. And thanks to Shesta's predecessor, Brad Horn, and his wife, Whitney, who, along with Pam Kent of the Red Sox, have been our guiding lights for this weekend. My first hope was to be Mickey Mantle, but as Frick Award winner Ernie Harwell used to say, I wanted to be a ball player in the worst way, and that's exactly how I played. But I think broadcasting baseball has always been my true vocation, guided from above. My late dad, Dr. Frank, a dermatologist and father of 8, hit me fungos, taught me to read the box scores, and had me listen to the great Mel Allen, who would become my broadcast hero. I would pretend to be Mel and announce my own fungo games in the backyard. The neighbors thought I was crazy. Dad and Uncle Charlie seldom missed a broadcast. One night, Dad and my mom, who's listening today, were attending a drama at the Schubert Theater in New Haven. Dad was also listening to our game on his headset. Somehow his earpiece got disconnected, and my home run call was heard at a critical moment in the production throughout the theater. I got my start 50 miles from here, Colgate University, broadcasting Colgate football and basketball, and on the college radio station, and spinning the hits of the 60s as Joey C. the Big Cheese. What an honor it is to have President Brian Casey here today and others from our Colgate family. My first professional experience was due to the kindness of a wonderful broadcaster named Lloyd Walsh, who called Colgate football for 37 years on WRUN in Utica. Lloyd knew how tough it was to get that first professional job on the resume, so he'd switch places with me in the third quarter and let me work on his professional station. Lloyd covered many great athletes here in Central New York, including a great tennis player from Rome, New York, named Rob Manfred. Yes, the commissioner of baseball. Colgate basketball led me to another mentor, the late Bill O'Donnell. After we both broadcast Colgate's triple overtime loss to Syracuse in 1965, me on the college station and Bill on WSYR, I accidentally started to walk off with Bill's gloves on a frigid night, and that's how we met. Bill soon joined Frick winner Chuck Thompson in the Baltimore Orioles booth, and he would critique my tapes and inform me of job opportunities. After working as a DJ and newsman and staff announcer in Connecticut, Western Mass, and Syracuse, I made the most important move of my life when I went to Youngstown, Ohio, to be a TV sports anchor. There, I replaced Chuck Tanner, who did the sports during the off seasons when he was a minor league manager. But then Chuck was hired to manage the Chicago White Sox, and I got his TV job, where I made $140 a week. I also got an extra $15 for play-by-play of high school and Youngstown State sports. And when I asked the boss if I could have a color analyst, he said, sure, as long as you share your $15 fee. I did the games alone. Going to Youngstown was a life-changing move because I met a third-grade teacher named Janice Lowry. On our very first date, Jan was to keep stats at a high school basketball game, but no one ordered a broadcast line for us, so we never got on the air. We had the night to ourselves. We fell in love, and 364 days later, we were married. We'll celebrate our 53rd anniversary in November, thanks to Jan, who ran the house, sacrificed so much for my career, and raised 3 great kids. Joe Jr., known as Duke, a TV sports anchor for 20 years in New York City, and now in his 6th year as sports director at Channel 5 in Boston, and Kiki, his bride of 25 years. Dr. Tom, who followed in his grandfather's footsteps and practices internal medicine south of Boston, and his wife of 24 years, Rachel. And daughter Kate, a marketing executive, and her husband, Mike Romano. They actually had the 2004 World Series trophy at their wedding rehearsal dinner. As former Writers Award winner Dan Shaughnessy says, everything in life comes back to the Red Sox. All 3 kids grew up at Fenway Park and worked concession, security, and first aid in the clubhouse. Duke, a catcher at Stonehill College, got on-field instruction at Fenway from Tony Pena, and Johnny Pesky hit both boys hundreds of ground balls. Kate would count pitches for our broadcast as a 7-year-old and later got help with her Spanish from Pedro Martinez when she was a student at Boston College. They loved to go with me to record the pregame shows with the affable general manager Lou Gorman, who always had treats or souvenirs. I would take each kid on a road trip, and they would join manager Joe Morgan for pizza in his hotel suite after night games. Like their parents, all 6 grandchildren, Jane, Tila, Anna, Joey, Thomas, and Charlie, are regulars at Fenway Park and never want me to leave. They got to ride in the World Series duck boats and have been photographed with and hugged by Big Papi, who was just as great with fans as he was hitting in the clutch. My first baseball job came in 1979 in Cleveland Indians TV, hired by Bill Flynn, who took a chance on a guy with no MLB experience. I worked with the late Fred McLeod, who went on to a great career in the NBA, and I made many lifetime friends that season, including my dear friend and spiritual coach of almost 50 years, Andre Thornton, who has a record that can never be broken, most home runs in the history of Cleveland's old Municipal Stadium. A strike-shortened season on pay TV in Milwaukee was next, thanks to Brewers owner and future Commissioner Bud Selig and broadcast director Bill Haig, and there were 4 Hall of Famers on that team. And then it was back to Cleveland Cable TV, where I worked games with Rapid Robert Bob Feller, who played catch with my kids and came to their birthday parties. And it was in Cleveland where I worked in TV with the late Casey Coleman, who told me his father Ken needed a radio partner for the 1983 season. Thanks to Ken, I was hired on that 1-year contract. Ken encouraged me, gave me some advice, which I still follow. He said, "You'll see a lot of failure over a long season. After all, a good hitter fails 7 out of 10 at-bats. So keep that in mind before you criticize a player." Ken also introduced me to his passion, the Jimmy Fund of the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, where I succeeded him in a speakers and fundraising role. There were many heartbreaking but also heartwarming stories I shared with patients and players, especially with Red Sox Hall of Famer Mo Vaughn, a true leader on and off the field. Ernie Harwell, another great broadcaster and Christian gentleman, set a tone on how to pay it forward with his kindness to interns and young broadcasters like me. His example was a big reason I taught a broadcast course for 29 years at Northeastern University and 12 years at Franklin Pierce U. My students included Don Orsillo, now TV voice of the San Diego Padres, Leslie Sterling, the first female public address announcer in the American League, who left for a higher calling. She is now an Episcopal priest. And former baseball executive Glenn Wilbur, now with CBS News, 3-time Olympic hockey star Kendall Coyne, and many other kids looking for an easy grade. Bob Starr, who called himself the Burley broadcaster, followed Ken Coleman. He taught me how to laugh and not to take wins and losses so seriously. He had a saying, "It's not my life and it's not my wife." Well, I didn't always heed his advice. One night in Chicago, the Red Sox were down a run, 2 out in the 9th, tying run at third, go-ahead run at second. Jody Reed hits a line drive headed for center field, but the pitcher jumps up and catches it. Game over. Red Sox lose, and Burly Bob starts laughing. "Sorry, fans," he said. "I know it was a tough loss, but my partner is all hunched over here, looking like he's been harpooned." I've had other great broadcast partners over my career. Jerry Trupiano for 14 years, highlighted by the greatest comeback of all time in the 2004 championship. My great friend Dave O'Brien for 9 years, with whom we shared the 2007 World Championship and 2013 Boston Strong Championship, and many good times on the road. Tim Neverett for 3 years, who helped me off the floor when I went head over heels and fell out of my chair while describing Andrew Benintendi's game-saving catch at Houston in the 2018 ALCS. And Will Fleming, an outstanding broadcaster and friend, who is taking the baton with grace and style. I also enjoyed working with Sean McDonough, Lou Merlone, Glenn Geffner, John Risch, Rob Bradford, Dale Arnold, Flash Gordon, Mario Impemba, and Josh Lewin. You certainly need the support of your employers to last 42 years. Both Red Sox ownership groups, the Yawkey Trust, John Harrington, who's been so kind to my family, and Haywood Sullivan, and the Fenway Sports Group, John Henry, Tom Werner, Mike D., President Sam Kennedy, Colin Birch, and the late Larry Lucchino, a great leader, whom I think deserves a plaque in Cooperstown for building ballparks and champions. I thank them for their loyalty and for giving us competitive teams to broadcast, and of course 4 world championships in 15 years. And those front office friends who've been so helpful, especially the late Jack Rogers and Dick Bresciani. I thank the 16 managers who've been so trusting and cooperative, especially my dear friend Joe Morgan, who still teaches me baseball at the tender age of 93. Joe, thanks for coming today. The coaches like Lynn Jones, Victor Rodriguez, DeMarlo Hale, and so many more. And the scouts who analyze the talent through their judgment and experience. The late Grover Deacon Jones, T-Bone Giordano, Ed DeRamio, and Bob Schaefer. I've been privileged to cover so many great players. Imagining I have Roger Clemens and Pedro Martinez on the mound every 5th day for 20 of my first 22 years with the Red Sox. When the Red Sox named the radio booth for me in my 40th year, the rocket flew up from Texas to present me with a plaque, a true and loyal friend. I'll be here in Cooperstown someday when Roger's inducted. Same for Dwight Evans and Louis Tiant. 10 years ago, I was elected to the Red Sox Hall of Fame, and what made it even more special was going in with Pedro Martinez, the most charismatic athlete I've known, along with David Ortiz, Roger Clemens, and Nomar Garcia-Parra, who was headed to Cooperstown till injuries intervened. We were all on the mound to throw out a first pitch, and Roger said, "Let's throw in the count of 3. I threw on 2, so my pitch would get there when theirs did. And I had the best defensive center fielder I've ever seen, Jackie Bradley Jr., catch my pitch, because Jackie catches everything. I'm so honored to see so many of my old friends here, and regretfully, Brian and Kim Daubach, Trot and Catherine Nixon, and Bob Kendrick, president of the Negro League Museum, couldn't make it because of the airline situation. But it's great to see Rich, Caitlin, and Bryce Hill, Dennis and Jennifer Eckersley, Jim and Corrine Rice, and Mike Lowell, the 2007 World Series MVP, here with his son Anthony and his dad, Dr. Carl. I'm grateful to broadcast management, Jack Campbell and Jane Day, Steve Dodge and Brad Murray of American Radio, and Mike Thomas, Mark Hannon, and Ken Laird of Odyssey. Thanks to the salesmen, especially Dana Panapinto, the interns, our wonderful engineer of 25 years, Doug Lane, and my co-authors, Doug Lyons, who wrote both of my books. He did all the heavy lifting. And his friend, my friend, and his brother, the New York movie critic Jeffrey Lyons, who says we are brothers from another mother. And my agent, Steve Fryer, who keeps me going. And most of all, to the passionate fans of Red Sox Nation for their trust and their loyalty. I know they appreciate my passion because many have told me they can tell the Red Sox are winning or losing by the tone of my voice. I really had so much fun with Red Sox baseball, but thanks to a Jesuit priest named John Dillon Day, I came to realize the responsibility involved. Monsignor Day told me, what you have is an apostolate, because you bring light and joy to the elderly and the shut-ins who plan their whole day around your broadcast, the overlooked demographic. At my 50th college reunion, a classmate said to me, You're the one guy who did exactly what he said he wanted to do. What a blessing. This honor caps the many blessings I've had, and the catchphrase fits so well. Can you believe it? Thank you so much.